This is a quick video on how to rig and animate a simple object. If you haven't used Maya before, if you hold your Option key and use your right mouse, left mouse, middle mouse as a button or middle mouse as a wheel, that's how you navigate. So the first thing I want to do, if I'm going to rig this simple two tubes together as a cross, which could be like, the equivalent of arms or legs or whatever, is I'm going to hit my space bar, which goes to 4 views, and then I'm going to hover over this front view to create a rig, because you have to have a grid to put your joints and bones on. And so if I do it in this perspective view right here, it's going to put it along this bottom grid right here, and it won't put it up in the air where I want it. So that's why I have to go to the front view right here. If you hover over one of these smaller windows, hit your space bar, it becomes a big window. So the first thing I want to do is turn on my shading X-ray joints so I can see my joints. You have to do that in every one of these little windows. You have to turn on the X-ray joints so you can see them. Next, I'm going to go from my modeling menu to the rigging menu set right here up in the left-hand corner. And that will give me the menu items that I need here. And I will go to skeleton, create joints. I'll start in the middle. It's equivalent, if it was a human character, it'd be around the hip area or the middle of the, about the belly button. Anyway, so I'm going to click on a joint. Now I can see that first joint. I'm going to go up toward, I'm going to keep clicking here, left clicks. And then you have to put one at the end. You always got to put one at the end. And then in order to get back to the root joint, which is the first one that we put, you're going to click on your up arrow, and that'll take you back up the chain. Now I can go down if I want. This would be like, a leg or feet or whatever. And then go back up the chain to the root joint. And I'm going to do one of these arms, so to speak. And then I'm going to hit enter or return, and that will show me the whole thing. Now I didn't do the other arm just so I can show mirroring. So I'm going to select this joint right here. So it's past the middle. It's the first one past the middle. And I want to go to skeleton mirror joints. Now it may not mirror correctly, and just in case, hit skeleton mirror joints in that little box on the right there, and it'll open up this window, and that will tell you whether it's XY, YZ, XZ. It's probably going to be okay. I think XZ. I'll hit mirror, and nope, that didn't work. So a good thing I opened that up. I'll do that again. Skeleton, mirror joints, and I'll try the YZ, and that worked. So it's one of those. Okay, so now I'm going to click back to perspective, and now in perspective you notice that I don't have the joints x-rayed anymore, so I'll say shading x-ray joints in this panel. Now I can see them. If you need to move your joints, you can click on them and then use your move right here to move them into your model if they weren't quite inside your model. It's best if they're right inside your model. And now I'm going to shift click the skin or the mesh and say skin bind skin. Now what that means is that I can rotate any one of these joints and it will take the skin with it. It takes the vertices of your mesh around the joint. It'll just kind of create a radius around the joint, and it takes those vertices along with the joint when you rotate it. I always like to click on my joints and right click and hold and put a set preferred angle, because that means that later on, if I need to snap back to the original position, I can hit assume preferred angle and it'll snap back to my original position. Now every one of these joints has a timeline. And so if I want to say move this joint, I can set a key right here in the timeline. And if I want to set a key, a quick way to do it is just hit your S key, S on your keyboard, and it'll put a little red strike saying you've started. You put a keyframe at frame 1. Now make sure that your auto keying is turned on, auto keyframe toggle right here, because that means that it will automatically create those strikes if you make any moves with that joint. And so you don't have to keep hitting SSS over and over and over again. So that's that little button right there. You also want to right click and hold in your timeline, anywhere in the timeline, and go to playback speed. Make sure you're in real time because it doesn't default to that when you open up Maya for the first time. It'll do every frame free and it goes way too fast. So you want to be in real time. And we're at 24 frames per second. I'm going to set my animation to be, I don't know, 100 frames long. I'm just going to put number 100 and hit return. And that will give me a 100 frame timeline. You can always change it later if you like. So I've made my first strike, but it's only for that one joint. So now I'm going to click somewhere else down the timeline, let's say there, and make a move. And it automatically makes the strike because I had my auto key turned on. And now I can test it. I can even take my playhead now and see what move I just made. I can maybe do another move, something like that, and then do another move. It keeps auto keying the strikes, which is great. And then if I want to loop this so it doesn't snap at the end of the loop as it loops around, we want it to not have to snap to its original position. I can take the very first frame and duplicate it as the last frame, and that way it'll smoothly go into it. So I click on the first frame, I right click and hold and hit copy. And then I go to the last frame at frame 100, the end of my loop, right click and hold and hit paste, paste. Note that you can't use the quick key copy paste, Control C and Control V, because it won't work. It doesn't know what you're copying. You have to right click into the timeline. So now I can hit play over here, and it does my looping. And now if I want to click on another joint and animate it, I can click like this one if I want to, further animate like that. But again, I'm going to have to set a keyframe at frame 1, so I'll hit S, and then go down the road a little bit and turn it and do whatever I'm going to do with it. Go down the road a little bit and do some more. And I'll do some more. And I'll do a copy, paste, copy, paste, paste, and now it'll loop. So now it'll do that nice and loopy like. That's the basics. If you want to make this a little easier, if you have a long string of joints, you can create what's called an IK handle that will move all the joints at once. So you just have to move the handle and it will automatically calculate all the joints in between, so you don't have to move them all separately. So to make an IK handle, I can go to skeleton, and there it is down here in the menu, create IK handle. And you will then click on where you want the handle to start, and you'll see how this works in a second. Let's say I want to start it there, and where do you want it to end? At the last joint there. And so that makes this IK handle that now I can, rather than rotate, I'm going to go to my move right here, and I can move it, and it will calculate all the joints in between. Now sometimes, as you can see, it doesn't calculate quite as you might expect it. Maybe I didn't want it to bend that way. And so what a lot of riggers will do to make this quick is that they'll pre-bend, when they set up the rigging, they'll kind of do a little arc and they'll pre-bend this so that it will bend in the right direction. You can also, well, you can't turn it. So that's the way to get things to bend in the right direction. And so in this case, you would not animate the joints that are in this chain right here where you clicked it between the beginning and the end. You would only animate the IK handle. Now, if you want to make sure you don't click on the mesh any longer, because you don't want to click on the mesh because you're animating, you just want to click on either joints or IK handles. And so you can turn off clickability of the mesh temporarily. So if you go up here, I'm going up here on the upper left, I'm opening up this little menu thing here, and I can turn off what looks like a little bit of polygon, and that will make it so I can't select the mesh anymore. I can only select things like joints. And so that might make things easier. And then when you're ready to, if you need to select the mesh again, you can just turn that back on. It's like a filter. So that's basically it. That's quick down and dirty rigging and animation in Maya.